Well, they've had 4 days of fleet racing. We're down to the double points medal race now. It's an open event. As I said, men and women have been competing against each other all week. The tricolor on the leaderboard is dominant. France hold the top 3 places. There you go. The best placed woman, by the way, was Daniela in 12th. So Tony Vodisek is in the hunt, as is Martin Dolenc for medals. But Nicolas Parlier, wow, I mean, he is dominating the class at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think everybody has been really impressed all week with just his control. And I think that's something I really admire about him, is no matter what the conditions, especially like the conditions we had yesterday and on Wednesday, he has so much control, and he's done a lot of training in these types of conditions, so you can see how just dominant he is in that.
And by the looks of it, sponsored by an Italian island. I mean, he comes from an historic French family as far as yachting's concerned, and we'll have time to talk about that in a little while. But the wind on shore is getting up, and can hear that whistling through the studio. But in second place, Axel Mazzella, also of France, youth world champion in 2017, always chasing Theodore Ramcourt in the kind of the French rankings, but this time he's come out in front, and Theo is in 3rd place. What does he bring to the party?
I think Axel is very versatile in a sense, because he's been very good in all different types of conditions, and he's shown that he can be extremely competitive in the light wind, and also just not quite as, I think, as quick or as efficient in the heavy wind, but I think that's something he's working on, and he's been definitely in the top 5 for the past few years, and he's very close friends with Nico Parlier, and they train together a lot, and they even go to the same university now. They're in a physiotherapy program in Montpellier. And now Axel just recently joined Ozone as his primary sponsor for Kite, so now they get to train together even more and develop kites together. So I think it's a really good friendship and kind of competitiveness that drives both of them.
Now, Florian Gruber is sitting in 7th overall at the moment, and we caught up with the German the last time we saw the Kites at a major World Cup Series event. And we caught up with him just to find out a little bit more about the board.
Florian Gruber, Germany, Formula Kite. The kite foil racing is pretty new. We're in the international events at the Sailing World Cup for 1.5 years now with the foils. Yeah, I think that's the big future. It's really awesome how fast they can go. We are way quicker around the course, and that's what we want. The riding style with the foils is completely different because you have no attachment to the water with the board. You're more flying over the water, and yeah, this loose feeling is super nice. You don't feel any waves. You're super quiet, and you can fully focus on your performance. And the carbon wings are the highest technical thing you can get right now. We have no fins under the board. We have like one long mast, and under the mast there are 2 wings, one front wing and one back wing. It looks like a small plane. The front wing is giving you some lift, so you come with the board out of the water and just riding on these little tiny wings. And the back wing is the stabilizer, so that you still have a lot of control in the high speed.
Well, it looks like an awesome piece of kit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very high performance, and we're really excited that that's the same kind of equipment that's going to be featured in the Olympics, hopefully.
Okay, let's have a look at the course, because it's not as we've seen in the other classes today?
So it's a windward leeward 2-lap course, but the difference between this and the other sailing is that they'd normally been the gate mark, but instead they do a figure of 8 and go for a starboard rounding, which is slightly different, but it allows the kites, forces them to have to take a jibe on the way downwind, that added jibe. And also, as they come back down through this final mark, the finish will be over towards this left side, as it was the opposite side for the dinghy. So a slightly different course, windward-leeward course, as we've seen before, but then it allows the chance to be able to sit and go for that starboard course that allows that to put that extra jibe in and adds that extra difficulty.
So that's the start line. Now, we're a minute from the start. Where are they?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how that works, huh? I know we see usually a lot of all of the sailing classes, they kind of sit right on the line when there's like a couple minutes to go, but because if we sit, we sink. So that's kind of an issue if you do that. So basically what you'll see is as we get to 30 seconds up down to 0, you'll see them come up to the start line, and then when they put their kites down towards the water, that's pretty much at about 0.
And do they all have separately coloured kites?
Most of them do. The kite colors are based on brand, so it kind of just varies rider to rider, but you will see a lot of the riders will have the same color kites.
Here we go then. We're counting down to the Formula Kite medal race. 6 nations represented here. 5 sailors representing France, and they are off at speed. And they're going upwind here.
Yes. So you'll immediately notice how fast they're going upwind.
And how fast are they going, do you reckon?
I would say if we're looking at about 8 to 12 knots on the course, then they're probably going between 18 and 23 knots upwind.
Oh, bang on. See, who needs analytics? Well, as they to support that, we've got anywhere from 18 to 22 sort of knots of speed here. Just phenomenal speed off that line, and you can see the acceleration came on really late. It was the dying sort of 2-3 seconds before that kite dived down, and that loaded up the foil, that crouch position, and loading up that foil all the time.
So Martin Dolenc out in front, Nicolas Parlier on his shoulder, then comes Vodisek. So it's a real battle for the leading position in this early stage of the race, and this isn't going to last long at 20 knots.
No, not long. I think the target time is generally between 10 and 13 minutes is what we've been seeing this week, so it's going to be a pretty quick one, even though we have 2 laps.
There's a good shot of how they tack.
Yeah, and they make it look very easy, but believe me, just learning that takes a long time and requires a lot of control. So.
And it's about keeping the speed up in the tack.
Yeah, absolutely. Keeping the speed is huge and not losing any ground as well.
Well, the man who gave us a tour of his board, Florian Gruber of Germany, has now taken the lead.
And we have that beautiful backdrop with all those kites. Looks pretty awesome.
Well, you pursue your sport in San Francisco, so you're used to stunning backdrops.
Absolutely.
But this is also something very special. And I've got to tell you, Daniela's sitting here with a huge smile on her face, just enjoying it. You're normally out on the water, aren't you?
I am, yeah, but I must say, watching it, it's very different for me. Normally I'm not sitting on the beach watching, but yeah, it's pretty cool. And I was on the beach yesterday as well, actually, even though we were racing, because I actually broke some gear on Wednesday in some similar conditions and didn't want to be trying brand new stuff that I'd never ridden before in such kind of hectic conditions. So, but it's crazy how much you learn just watching a race. So it's quite cool.
So with the kite, so different to obviously a twin tip riding and so on, you can literally sit back into the harness a lot more. Here they go for a really kind of crouched weight over that back foot and lean actually in towards the board. Why is that?
Yeah, absolutely. So they're trying to load up the foil as much as possible, which will create stability and speed. So by kind of sitting, like leaning into that crouched position, it's very similar to hiking actually. So it's our kind of version of handling as much power from the kite as possible while also keeping up that speed.
So de Ramacourt, we just saw him round that top mark in the lead. The Frenchman out in front ahead of this guy, Nicolas Pallier, with the yellow bib, the yellow overall leader's bib. The man holding on to the gold medal.
And I'm actually just looking at the speeds right now, and I must say this is slow for them because it's pretty light out there right now. I think normally they'll reach about 30 to 35 knots pretty comfortably, but because they're on much bigger kites, which is kind of the bigger size that move much slower, they can't generate quite as much speed, but they can still have that power in order to still get going.
And where are the umpires? Where are the officials? Are they on jet skis?
I think most of them are on boats, but they usually try to stay pretty clear because if you cross any kind of boat prop, it can cause a wipeout and it's pretty bad. So I think for the most part, they try to stay out of the way, but there have been a couple occasions this time where they got in the way, but it happens. I saw it on the NACRA course earlier, which is too bad.
Nicolas Pallier, 4 times world champion, dominant in the fleet, dominant here in Marseille, and currently sitting in second in the medal race. But he went into the race with an 11-point lead.
Well, the battle's then fiercely on for silver between Mazzella and Ramacourt, and just switching over there, still a couple of points in, and with Ramacourt out in front at the moment, that is creating that point gap that Axel's got to creep back up through the fleet to certainly find some ground. He's back in 6th place at the moment, so certainly Kite's to be able to overtake, but it's a matter of whether that opportunity arises to be able to do so. You can see just go whizzing past. In the background was the blue bib of Axel Mazzella heading out towards that right-hand side, just trying to give himself that little bit more breathing space, a bit more breeze over towards that right-hand side. Looking at the analytics, stronger wind that's coming down on that side, so trying to access any extra bit of pressure.
And I think what's also interesting was he just rounded the bottom mark pretty further back in the fleet, so he might be just trying to find some clean air, because if you get stuck behind a lot of people, then you get a ton of dirty air, and we really feel that on big kites and light wind.
So Axel Mazzella trying to work his way back up the fleet, trying to close the gap on the current leader, Theo de Ramacourt, because the battle for silver and bronze is between those two Frenchmen.
And it looks like tacking over to the right early paid off, because now he's definitely moving up.
Mazzella up to 3rd. He is. So some good tactics from Mazzella gets him back to where he started, in 2nd overall. And look at the dominance of the French there. Why are they so good?
Well, they have a really good team going, and they've been working with one coach for several years now, actually. So it's quite cool to see the the national authorities kind of building up their teams. And yeah, definitely we have a few more countries in the top 3, and I think at the Worlds this year we had a couple British on the podium, but don't see any of them here.
The French team do all their training down the coast in the southwest of France, near Montpellier. And I know they've come here with every intention to shine and show off to the home fans how hard they're working. And now Parlier takes the lead at the top mark. He looks behind him, checks the distance. And Theo de Ramacourt will round in second. But Parlier's away now, surely.
Yep, looks like it. He really likes the downwind, and the kite that he's riding right now is it's lower aspect than the one that Theo de Ramacourt is riding, so we'll probably see Nico having a bit of a lower angle, but still quite a ways in the race, so we can see what happens.
And you all have a choice of kites, don't you?
Yes, so we register 4 different sizes. Right now, most of the boys are riding the biggest kite they registered because we have such light wind. And the sizes go all the way down to a 9 meter, but right now they're on 21s.
So part of the preparation, a big part of that, will be deciding what you're going to race with.
Yeah, absolutely. And also really knowing that gear and having fine-tuned it.
How do you fine-tune a kite? Keep it simple. Is that something you spend hours doing? Hours and hours?
No, it's not hours, but you definitely... It's quite a bit of time, just because there's the way our bridle system works is quite complicated, and it's similar to a paraglider actually. So you have these kind of different rows of bridles, and you kind of change the lengths of them.
Our leader second in this shot. Then we have Theo de Ramacourt with the red bib closing in on him.
Oh, beautiful jibe right there. Almost didn't lose any speed.
So they're coming down to this 4th mark.
Right.
And then it's the final leg.
Yep, that's it. And they're really going to turn on the speed here for that final reach.
Now, hard to see just how close these two are, but it looks very close indeed for victory in the medal race. Parlier just ahead. I mean, the gold is his now. So they're racing so that they can claim that they won the medal race in Marseille. It's the battle between the two Frenchmen, Parlier and de Ramacourt. And they're approaching that finish line. And it's Nicolas Parlier who crosses the line first, as he often does. Theo de Ramacourt in second, which is enough for him to jump up to that silver medal position. Tony Vodisek, Martin Dolench coming in. And then Axel Mazzella, who started the day in second place, will have to settle for the bronze medal. So Nicolas Parlier once again proving just how good he is. The son of Yves Parlier, the famous French offshore sailor. So the ocean is really in his blood.
Theo got a
Theo
nice
de Ramacourt
little...
having a little celebration there,
Yeah.
gone for a little fly.
Absolutely.
And just so you understand how fast these guys move, we can't do an interview with Parlier because he's already back in the harbour, apparently. I'm looking around, I think he's on his way back, but he's certainly out of reach of our camera boat. There he is. So through the week, you've had 16 races to qualify. How tiring is it?
It's definitely, it gets to you for sure. And I think it's just something you have to train for. And especially both mentally and physically, you know, it's just like with any other sailing event is like playing chess while running a marathon, you know, you have to combine that strategy with...
Sorry, he's just showing off now, isn't
absolutely,
he?
yeah. he's going for a ride now. Victory lap.
You were saying?
Yeah, so it definitely gets to you, and especially when you have stuff outside of, if you're not doing this full time, like for me, I just graduated high school. My graduation was yesterday, actually.
Congratulations.
So thank you.
You missed it.
Yeah, I missed it.
You took the right decision. This is the place to be.
This was pretty exciting, I think. My mom will get her picture in my cap and gown later. But yeah, it's tough, but you train for it, and everybody really enjoys it. They wouldn't be here if they didn't, so definitely worth it.
Let's confirm the results. Gold medal went to this guy, Nicolas Pallier of France. Silver in the end was taken by Theodore Ramacourt with that second place finish. And Axel Mazzella, who finished that medal race in 5th, will get the bronze. But yeah, 5 French sailors there. Huge representation.